Alrighty. Well, we've been doing this presentation the last couple quarterlies, and it's been very well received. But we wanted to come at it from a different angle today, just to give everybody a little bit of a different taste of Aptogenix. And so today we're going to really try to focus in on the protocol that was kind of part, the main vision as we looked at these products. You know, a lot of companies that create products, they kind of create products in a vacuum, and it's, I'm creating this product, and what do I want to put in this product, and that's, okay, I'm done, and then they move to the next product. But what we wanted to do was say, okay, but if we're looking at this in the grand scheme of a protocol, we got to make sure that these products are going to be working well together, that the chemistry that comes together in that protocol works well together. And so that's what we're going to show you today, is just this 60-day gut repair and detox protocol and how the products are all fitting together into that mix, and really just worked to make sure that there's not what's the word, overdosing, I guess is the word I'm looking for, right? And instead that there's a perfect blend, knowing what's in each and every product. So we're going to be talking about the protocol as we go, and see what we need to do. Miles, you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, just before we dive into the protocol, I want to actually rewind in time a bit to almost actually a little over a year ago now in Mexico, with a few of you who are here, where the birth of Aptogenix occurred. This was a time where we were meeting in Mexico as a mastermind, and John and Seth brought this forward of, we've decided that we want to do this supplement company. And it was in an idea form at that time. Everyone got so excited about the possibility, not because, why do we need another supplement company, really, guys? I mean, how many supplement companies are out there? And of the supplement companies that are out there, what are the frustrations and problems? What started to surface were people were saying, oh, you know, I've been using the supplement company, but they keep raising their prices, and the ingredient quality seems to be going down, and they're using the same products for a really long period of time, and there are some research papers that are showing some interesting things that I just can't find in supplements. So we got really excited about the possibility. What if we together could create a company and take our minds for these things that we really want to see happen with supplements and apply them to a supplement line that would be designed specifically in these kinds of protocols, in these kinds of, it would make sense as a story, as a sequence. So what I want today to be for you all is I want it to be a story, not just, oh, here's another protocol by another supplement company. I don't want that. I really want this to be a story and a journey for how a synergy of ingredients or players or a cast of characters can come together in a synergistic way that can make for a performance of a lifetime, not just, oh yeah, those are some cool people that are talking a little bit. I want this to be actually something that creates transformation in people's lives, or I wouldn't have invested an enormous amount of time, my own time, and many of the others in Mastermind's time, to put together and go through some hard lessons to get these products out. We thought we would get them out a little quicker than they came out. We thought it was going to be a lot easier. We thought ingredients that had supply chain issues would be available that aren't. So it's been a journey, it's been a challenge, it's been a struggle. I want to share a bit of that story and journey with you and create these products in this protocol into a story and a journey.
So as we get started, we thought it'd be helpful just to really look at the overall objectives, right, of a gut repair and a detox program, right? What are the objectives that we are trying to accomplish as we are looking to put together these products that are going to work together? And so we came up with this list of bullet points real quick, and we'll just fly through this from an informational standpoint, and then we can expound on it kind of as we go. But we're wanting to be able to support healthy methylation. We're wanting to be able to rebalance the microbial ecology. We want to establish healthy cytokine balance. We want to liberate cellular waste. Again, this is making sure that we're not just saying, okay, we got to get this stuff out of the body. We got to get it out of the cells. We want to activate the NRF2 pathway, support conjugation with phase 1 and phase 2 liver enzymes, encourage proper bile production and flow, promote toxin binding and removal, and establish proper elimination. And so, again, I just wanted to throw those out there. And as we talk through the rest of this products, I want you to keep these in the back of your mind so you can see this thread, right, that's being woven through all the products as we go through these different things and how they are working together to accomplish this. So we're going to be digging into these a lot deeper, but in the way of looking at the products and how they work together in the protocol.
It's almost a disservice to call this a gut plus detox protocol, because that limits people's thinking. It's doing something for the gut, maybe it's a probiotic, and then there's something for detox, maybe it's a binder, or maybe it's a liver detox supplement. But this really is a journey and a story. When we think about detox from a place of story, where do the toxins store themselves? Well, where? Let's get this participation here. So where do those toxins store themselves? In fat tissues, in cells. So where does the journey begin then? In the cell, right? We need to get these transport proteins upregulated to take the toxins out of the cell. Then where does that toxin go after that? Yeah, into the bloodstream and through the liver. And then it gets conjugated in the liver. And there are phase 1 and phase 2 of liver detoxification, which are changing the nature of that toxin in phase 1 and then conjugating it to an amino acid in phase 2. So we have transport out of the cell, and then we have phase 1, phase 2 liver detoxification, and then what happens? Where does it get put? So bile, yes, bile often it'll get put into the bile. Sometimes it'll go through the urine, through the kidneys to the urine. Other times it depends if it's more water soluble or fat soluble, but we have the bile. So bile has to get formed, and then the bile has to flow. So we have bile formation and bile flow, but what can block up that bile formation? Well, there's a protein called the MRP2 protein, where the liver can shunt away from bile formation and push toxin in a different direction. So we want the MRP2 protein to help the liver to be able to put the toxin appropriately into the bile, and then the bile to flow appropriately into the intestines. But then how much bile, what percentage recirculates? Anyone know? Like 95%. So some of these toxins, they might have been conjugated to an amino acid, but that conjugation might get undone in the intestines by, let's say, beta-glucuronidase enzyme, can undo a glucuronide bond. We know mold toxin goes down the glucuronidation pathway, can get bound, and then can get undone, and then can recirculate. That wouldn't be good. So what we need are what? In the intestines to get that bile to go out with the stool. Binders. So binders are a piece of the puzzle, but so are bile flow and formation substances, so are intercellular detox substances, phase 1, phase 2 liver detoxification substances, and then methylation plays a role as well in the detox process. So as you can see, this is a beautiful tapestry of detox. This isn't just a detox is your colon cleanse kind of a protocol, right? We're not trying to make people have diarrhea and think they're detoxing. We're actually wanting to bring toxin from the cell all the way through the blood, through the liver, through both phases, into the bile, into the intestines, and out with the stool. Does that make sense?
And one of my other favorite parts along this process, and I learned about this years ago regarding the activation of that NRF2 pathway, right? So this is like, everyone's talking about, oh, you got to take antioxidants, take antioxidants, take antioxidants. Well, this is allowing the body to actually create its own antioxidants, right? It's allowing your body to actually be able to deal with all of this stress that we have going on. And in today's world, especially since 2020, I've got to say I've seen the effects of stress more than ever, right? And as a result, I've seen people struggle to detoxify more than ever. I know that many of you have reached out to me. Are you seeing more reactions to detoxification? Answer is yes, we all are, because of all of the increased stress going on. So there's a lot of thought, as you can see, that went into this entire process as we continue to go through it.
One more comment on the NRF2. Did anyone here have someone who reacts weirdly to stuff? Like, not the normal reaction to stuff, like, oh, I took this NAC and I was on the toilet for 2 days. I was like, NAC, toilet, what? I don't understand the mechanism there, but weird reactions to things, right? So here, NRF2 blockage. When NRF2 is not activated, we see this inflammatory cascade, and people can have weird reactions. Also, with histamine issues and MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, people can be reactive to things. We know that sluggish methylation plays a big role in histamine accumulation in the body. If we can upregulate methylation and reduce histamine, people tolerate things better. And if we can unblock that NRF2 pathway, if we can activate that pathway, we'll actually overcome some of the obstacles that people have in being able to tolerate protocols, which is really incredible.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into kind of talking through, what does this protocol start with? So we've got two different products that are kind of this initial phase as we talk about the days 1 through 30. We've labeled days 1 through 30 as the gut repair phase, right? We're trying to prepare for detoxification even more. And I guess, again, as Miles will tell you, gut repair is way too much of a minimalization of what's going on. But nonetheless, it's kind of just where we landed to generally understand what's happening. So the two products that we're going to talk about are Methyl Assist, which you're going to take in the morning, correct? Yes. And then also GI Immune Restore. So these two products are the two we're going to talk about really quickly as we jump in. So Methyl Assist is a powder. It's a drink that's going to be really easy for people to take just after breakfast as a way of, number one, getting your B vitamins, right, which is an important aspect of just foundational products. And then we have these additional ingredients to really help the methylation pathway. And Miles will jump into this more, but just to kind of give you an idea, we looked at a lot of the Methyl Assist type products that are on the market, and most of them go through the one pathway really of B vitamin methylation, right? And they miss a lot of the potential to really help people in this. And so this product has those other ingredients that really have even bigger impact. And so, Miles, if you'll talk about those.
I have a module in my practitioner certification program about advanced methylation because it actually irks me how little most people understand about methylation, even who are treating it. And to me, this really is a disservice to the client at the end of the day who puts their trust in the provider and the practitioner to be up to date on the science and literature and understand what actually can help with methylation from a research perspective. So I feel that there's a lot missing and a lot of these perpetuated ideas out there, just like in the world of cholesterol and certain other things. In the world of methylation, a number of the functional and natural practices are still doing things like high-dose methylfolate, for example. When you look at the biochemistry of how methylfolate donates a methyl group into the methylation cycle, and I know this starts to get scientific, so I'm not going to go super deep. I'm just going to say it's a drop in the ocean. The number of methyl groups that you can get on a mega dose of methylated folate, like 5 milligrams, and a mega dose, like 400 micrograms would be more a standard dose. So 5 milligrams is a super mega dose of it. The amount of actual CH4, which is the chemical methyl group, that you're going to get donated out of that is insignificant in the context of the millions of times that methylation is happening in each cell of the body. It's like saying I'm going to treat the ocean with one drop of something to make everything better. It doesn't work. And the reason it's perpetuated is because there is some research that shows that homocysteine can reduce and it can help the methyl cycle to give folate, but it's not about the methyl group on the folate. And people think high-dose methylfolate, it's going to donate into that group, it's going to make things better. Well, not exactly. In fact, not at all. Folate will help reduce homocysteine a little, should that homocysteine elevation be due to folate deficiency, and yet it's not often. Sometimes it is due to that. And B12 can help that pathway as well, but those two are just one part of how homocysteine gets recycled. Homocysteine also goes straight up to methionine and bypasses that B12 folate entirely with choline and TMG. So you'll see here we have choline as an ingredient at a pretty significant dose. You ever seen a dose of 2,200 milligrams of choline in anything? Now, why is that? Well, there's actually research that shows that people with MTHFR mutations have double the need of choline. 97% are already deficient in choline before you even add that doubled need. And there's a trial that shows 2,200 milligrams of choline per day reduces DNA damage and helps with methylation. So that's the study that we're looking at in relation to just one ingredient that you're all pretty much, I've never seen another methyl product that has 2,200 milligrams of choline. So this is interesting. And this is actually, if I have to say from my evaluation of methylation research, what are the top 2 researched ingredients for methylation specifically if it's downregulated? Would it be methylfolate? No. Would it be B12? No. It would actually be vitamin B2, riboflavin, and choline are the 2 strongest researched. Vitamin B2, what's interesting is that MTHFR, this enzyme that's supposed to reduce the methyl group off of folate and help recycle homocysteine, this enzyme actually, the research shows that if you have adequate B2 and you have who does genetic testing for MTHFR, looks at those SNPs? Do some people look at those SNPs? And some people come in, right, and they say, I have an MTHFR 677T mutation, or I have a 1298A mutation, I'm homozygous, or I'm heterozygous for these. And the research says, oh, well, that's going to reduce this enzyme activity by 30, 50%, sometimes 70%, depending on what the mutations are. And so it would make sense logically, I would think, okay, then I need to give more folate, more methylfolate. However, what's interesting is that, and this is why research is so brilliant, it shows that if someone's insufficient in vitamin B2, that genetic SNP expresses. If someone is adequate in vitamin B2, it does not express. Interesting. You can have that genetic MTHFR SNP, you can bring B2 levels up, riboflavin levels up, and the gene doesn't express. And you're actually recycling homocysteine well. So B2 and choline are in really high doses in here. 200 milligrams of B2, you see 15,000%. Why do you need 15,000% of B2? Well, interestingly, that kind of dose is shown to help with migraine headaches, to help with protein misfolding issues. And there are a lot of mystery conditions that we actually are starting to believe have a protein misfolding component to them. And B2 is one that doesn't seem to have an upper toxicity threshold. So we don't have to worry about going really high on B2. So between B2 and choline, we of course are going to cover the folate and B12, but I just wanted to highlight those 2 for you to see. And one more highlight is people can overmethylate, even who are undermethylating. It's not like, you're either undermethylating or overmethylating. This is another thing that gets to me. You're either low or you're high. No, not actually the case. You can be overmethylating in one part of the body and undermethylating in another part of the body. And some people can start on things because they're quote unquote undermethylating, and then they can express symptoms of overmethylation with treatment. And people can get, PETA knows this very well, people can get weird. They can have these cognitive changes, they can have these anxieties, they can have these mental emotional things that are pretty significant when giving methyl support sometimes. I get a lot of people who are sensitive. They're like, I can't take B vitamins, but I have this methylation issue. What the heck do I do? And glycine is what's called a methyl buffer. Glycine, when in adequate quantities in the body, will actually buffer and bind to excess methyl groups, but only if they're excess. This is brilliant, because unlike niacin will bind to methyl groups indiscriminately. Even if they're low, it'll make them lower. That's why you see with high-dose niacin things like liver problems, because it's reducing methylation even if it's too low. But glycine, high levels of glycine make glycine available as a buffer, but it won't buffer if levels are already normal or low. So now glycine's going to protect against overmethylation. And then SAMe, a really expensive thing to supplement with directly, but the end product of this methyl pathway, the most active methyl thing in the body, will a lot of it go to actually create creatine. And so you're using a lot of your end product of all this work for methylation to make creatine. But if you supplement with creatine, now you don't need to make as much. You preserve or spare SAMe that way. So that's just some of the highlights on this. There are a few more details in it, but this really takes a methylation product to a whole another level.
Yeah, so again, you can see just the intricacy of thought that went in as we were designing each and every one of these products. And that was important to us, because we didn't want to just be another supplement line that offers the same stuff. We wanted to actually really try to address and resolve a lot of the complexities of helping patients in a better way. So the next product that we're going to talk about is GI Immune Restore. GI Immune Restore is an IgY product from Hyperimmune Egg. Some of you may be familiar. There's a couple of other products out there, but it literally is providing immunoglobulins in a way that allows the body to handle a lot of these latent infections that are just kind of subclinical, if you will. And so this specifically, just to give you an understanding of how they create this product, they take a hen and they basically immunize it to, in this case, it's more than 26 known common human pathogens, so that hen, through the egg, is producing those IgY antibodies or immunoglobulins that help to fight off those infections. So this is a great help in regards to helping the gut heal. This has been shown to improve the histamine DAO ratios. This has been shown to improve the microbiome without actually providing probiotic, right? It's actually improving that scenario. It literally is helping the body to undo the effects of leaky gut, right? To reduce a lot of the inflammatory stuff. It's been shown to lower C-reactive protein. So it's got a lot of long-term benefits that really allow us to work with a patient in an early phase to get their gut in a healthier state in a very quick way.
And we decided, instead of different companies add this to different things. So in our case, we're adding actually XOS. We're adding xylo-oligosaccharides. And you might wonder why XOS and what is that in there, and is that going to be something that's going to be tolerated well? That's very intentionally chosen, in part because a lot of people with gut problems who you might want to give this formulation to, they might have an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine. They might have some gut pathogen infections. They might not tolerate a prebiotic or fibers very well. In fact, many prebiotics and fibers may make them more bloated, may make them feel worse. There are fructooligosaccharides, there are galactooligosaccharides, there's xylo-oligosaccharides. These are all in class of probiotics. And these all feed healthy bacteria, which we want to do, but we don't want to, in the process of feeding healthy bacteria, feed an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine and make people feel bloated and miserable and worsen their digestive symptoms. They'll be frustrated and coming to you and asking why they're bloated, so we didn't want that. So what we've done is we've used xylo-oligosaccharide, because xylo-oligosaccharide, while it is a prebiotic, it tends to be the best tolerated of the prebiotics when it comes to people who have overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine, people who are dealing with gut infections. It selectively feeds some of the healthy bacteria, but it tends to be less feeding of general bacteria. So it's a little more selective, and it tends to increase some of the healthful bacteria without exacerbating SIBO or other types of symptoms. Not to say that occasionally someone might react to XOS. That's going to be the case. However, it is, in my experience, in my clinical experience, the best tolerated of the prebiotics.
So in addition to working on these, also has been shown clinically to lower zonulin, which is another important aspect of leaky gut. But working, these two are working together along with some other products. Now, in these products, we have some foundation products. Okay, we talked about those at length in the previous quarterly. The Min Essentials, the Essential Mag, the Enhanced ADK, the Omega Advance, and so those are important, and we'll look at those. But there's also some additional products that I really want to focus on when we looked at this protocol. Again, with the focus in this first 30 days of really trying to get inflammation down and get the gut in a healthier place. And so we're going to talk through a couple of these products just to look at the idea of what we're trying to accomplish during this initial phase. So this BioSpore SB is a spore-forming probiotic along with Saccharomyces boulardii. And so I'll let Miles talk about why we went with that, and then also the phages, the phage blend that's in here.
So would you like to take something that has yeast and bacteria and viruses all in one? What I like to tell people about Saccharomyces boulardii is it is a yeast. However, what it is it's a healthful yeast that can help crowd out pathogenic yeast. It's a yeast that has research that associates it with being able to bind to mold toxin and get them out of the body. It is a yeast that has research that shows that it can lower diarrhea, that it can help reduce C. difficile, Clostridium difficile toxins, one of the most challenging things to deal with. Saccharomyces boulardii can help reduce. Saccharomyces boulardii is one of the most popular that I know of probiotics. When people start to take it, they're like, oh, my skin is better, my digestion is better. There's a lot that's feeling better for a lot of people when they take S. boulardii. But the problem is, S. boulardii, most supplements have 3 to 5 billion in one cap. And that's not enough to get the therapeutic benefit. When it comes to C. diff toxins, I'll sometimes dose 30 or 40 billion twice a day. But when it comes to general things, I at least like to get 15 to 20. So that can be gotten in 2 caps of this, which is incredible, because normally it takes at least 4 of a 5 billion to get to 20, or 3 to get to 15. So that alone is significant, because normally you're going to see a standalone S. boulardii product that is just S. boulardii and nothing else, having 3 to 5. This is 1 cap with 8 plus. Now we also have 2 of the spore-based probiotics, and these spore-based probiotics are enormously well researched for doing cool things. I mean, I like to just imagine it, because they're in a spore, they go through the stomach, they stay in spore form through the stomach acid, they get into the intestines, and then they open up. And they open up, and they actually can secrete, one of these has been shown to secrete 12 different antimicrobial compounds. This one bacteria is secreting 12 different antimicrobial compounds. This is one thing that I find that is quite effective with overgrowth in the small intestine of bacteria, and well tolerated. So this is another one on the probiotic spectrum. Both SAC-B and spore-based probiotics tend to be well tolerated by people with gut issues, because we don't want this protocol to be making people feel worse who have gut issues. How many people have gut issues? How many people have overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestines? Probably easily 10%, 15%, maybe more, especially who are coming into your clinic, maybe double that. So we really want this to apply to, even though it's not super antimicrobial and targeted to, we know they have SIBO, we know they have a parasite infection. We do want it to be able to be effective and well tolerated and even help in situations like that. So Bacillus coagulans and Bacillus subtilis are well tolerated. There's some research that takes these two combined with a few others and found that what they did is they took college students, actually. They took college students and they gave them a horrible meal. So these are healthy college, well, are they healthy? I don't know. But these are quote unquote the healthy ones in the society because they're young. And they give them either a Big Mac or a pizza meal, right? And then they measure LPS antibodies. They look at, are their guts leaky? Are they showing a bunch of LPS after they eat this meal? And in fact, most of them were. And then what they did is they gave for 30 days these spore-based probiotics, and then they had one group that got the spore-based and a placebo group, and they redid the test. They ate the Big Mac or the pizza meal again, and the ones who had been taking the spore-based probiotics for 30 days had a significant drop in their LPS. So that meant that their gut wasn't nearly as leaky. Even with that horrible meal, their gut wasn't nearly as leaky, which is pretty incredible. So we know that intestinal permeability in leaky gut is supported by these spore-based probiotics. We know Saccharomyces boulardii helps with yeast and other things. And then we have phages. What are phages? Viruses. Are we giving people viruses now? I mean, this is like one of those things, like, oh, like, it used to be probiotics. Wait, you're going to take bacteria? Now people are like, oh, probiotics. Yeah, of course. But when we say yeast or viruses, it's a little still charged. However, phages actually can consume bacteria. It's really interesting. So they can actually consume bacteria and help with gut dysbiosis, help with problematic bacteria in the gut. So we're finding more about phages, and I think phage research is just at its infancy, and it's going to go a long way, but this is some of the base researched phages that can be helpful as well. All in one product, one cap. I mean, this is incredible in terms of dosing.
Yeah. So again, as we look at the gut itself, right? There's a lot more going into healing the gut, right, than just focusing on the gut. And inflammation is a big aspect. And that's where Inflammasist came from. But again, we wanted to do more than just put your typical turmeric, right, on the product, out there available. And so we have this combination that, again, I don't know that it exists outside of this. So I'll let Miles talk about, this fairly briefly, but.
So let me start at the beginning.
Hey, all jokes aside, I could listen to this man talk all day long, but I got this timer up here. I'm like, hey, we gotta go. No, it's always good. I love listening to Dr. Miles.
We mentioned NRF2, and so there are NRF2 activators. So turmeric is one of those, and we chose the 95% curcuminoid form of turmeric because it's the curcuminoids that have the strongest research. So if we're looking at a 95% curcuminoid extract, it's very different than 50% or 40%. Now, there are some products that do BCM95, but again, we wanted to differentiate. So we've added Boswellia in. Boswellia is something that's really incredible. I've found it to be on par sometimes with the anti-inflammatory effect of, for example, prednisone in a flare of ulcerative colitis or Crohn's. It's really strong. I can see some people respond tremendously and quickly to Boswellia who have no response to turmeric or curcumin. So it's another anti-inflammatory, it's another mechanism, it's very strong, it's very effective. So we added that and paired it together. And then we added also Sephora root. I like Sephora root because when we're looking at matrine, this active constituent, and oxymatrine, these are being used. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Dr. Chia, who treats chronic fatigue syndrome, but what he's found is that these enteroviruses in the stomach are really, really common in people who have chronic fatigue syndrome, and that oxymatrine and matrine in the Sephora extract is really significant at treating these viruses and at treating chronic fatigue syndrome. and it happens to also be anti-inflammatory. So I like to use dual purpose things where we can, where we get that anti-inflammatory effect, but we're also addressing chronic viral infections, because how many people have chronic viral infections, and how much of that is a source of some of the systemic and ongoing inflammation. So this is going to address some of that source as well as just having anti-inflammatories.
Yeah, and I do love that we try to do more than just, again, we don't want it to be, a lot of natural products, unfortunately, have the same mindset, right? In a Band-Aid form, right? As opposed to saying, okay, it's a different way of thinking in trying to address the source, address the cause, which we all know from a functional medicine standpoint, but we have to also see that in our products. So, phenomenal product as well. Now, berberine is a product that we have in our advanced protocol, but I do want to talk about it. The other thing about berberine is, again, as Dr. Miles was saying, dual purpose. And so if you'll speak to that, please.
Well, several of the aspects of berberine are that berberine is going to be used as an antimicrobial for gut infections. It'll preserve some healthy bacteria, and it'll kill some unhealthful bacteria in the gut. So it's a nice one and gentle for being able to reduce and eliminate infections and overgrowth and dysbiosis in the gut, while also at the same time it addresses the cardiometabolic system quite nicely. There's research comparing berberine in phase 2 trials against metformin for reducing blood sugar. So it's got this GLUT4 mechanism where it can actually have insulin or have glucose go into the cell without insulin. It's really interesting. So it bypasses that insulin need, and it actually brings that glucose into the cell. And that's pretty incredible. And so that's part of why it's so effective, because so much insulin resistance is the cause of a lot of the blood sugar dysregulation. So when you get another mechanism at play to help to reduce blood sugar, can be so helpful. And then cholesterol too has shown to actually improve significantly with berberine as well. But berberine isn't very bioavailable. That's part of the problem, is this is a big alkaloid, and it doesn't tend to absorb and metabolize that well. So there's a specific form called dihydroberberine, which has shown to be 5 times as bioavailable as standard berberine, which is incredible, 5 times bioavailability, because often when you're looking at these blood sugar trials, they're doing like a gram twice a day of berberine. It's a lot, it's a significant dose. So if we can get 5 times bioavailability, now we have a gram in 1 cap. If we have 200 milligrams, and it's 5 times as bioavailable. And then when we're looking at, well, how can we even go a step further and make it more bioavailable? We have MCT oil, which we do know actually increases bioavailability and can increase absorption, as well as being a biofilm disruptor. So it has its own biofilm disruption for yeast, and so it can help with gut issues in a different way. It also goes to the liver, converts into ketones, and actually can help with weight management. It can help with ketone production without being on a keto diet, which is really interesting. So you can get a little ketone benefit out of MCT oil. This isn't a therapeutic dose of MCT oil that's going to significantly raise ketone levels, but it's enough that it's going to have a little bit of an anti-biofilm effect, a little bit of a ketone effect, and an increase in the bioavailability of the already 5x bioavailable dihydroberberine. And then we're adding also our lipoic acid, which alpha lipoic acid is something that a lot of people might know about as an antioxidant, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier, and it can help with brain detox too. We want to make sure that we get toxin out of the brain. And our lipoic acid is the bioactive side of alpha lipoic acid. So it's twice as bioavailable as alpha lipoic acid. It's just the bioactive side. So now we have 75 milligrams of that, which is becoming a fairly therapeutic dose of our lipoic acid, adding antioxidant function, adding detox function on top of high bioavailability. So you can see already this product, it has gut applications, it has cardiometabolic applications, it has detoxification applications, it has blood sugar applications.
Yeah. So again, amazing how all of this really does work together and has so many great purposes. So we're going to move into the second 60 days. As I mentioned, the foundation products, I've got them on slides later if we have time, but I don't know that we will. So I wanted to make sure we got to some of these products. So within the second 60 days, this is where we kind of shift our focus into that detoxification, if you will, with the Aptoclear. The Aptoclear is our detox shake product that's also a meal replacement. And so we're going to talk about that product, and then we'll also get into the protocol and what is included within from a pill perspective. But let's discuss Aptoclear, which, by the way, if you haven't already been told, we do have so that you can get some samples of this. So it's a workhorse. It's got a lot in it, but let's talk through all that it's capable of.
So to begin with this product, there's been discussion of should we have a paleo version protein, a whey version protein, a vegan version protein. And this was, it's hard. These decisions are really hard. We ended up with, we wanted something that's going to be, as a first product, available to everyone, including people who are more on the vegetarian side of things. So we are having in this one a pea protein powder with pumpkin mix. And that pea protein mix gives a nice branched chain amino acid score that's getting closer to animal protein. It's not quite there, so what we do is add some L-leucine. The leucine actually is that missing part of the amino acid structure that would make the branched chain amino acids rounded out, and that would make the availability for protein synthesis and muscle to that next level that's now actually getting closer to animal protein in terms of the amino acid breakdown. So by taking pea together with pumpkin and adding leucine, we're actually getting a really nice bioavailability on that protein and branched chain amino acid, and the score is high there. When it comes to what did we want for a fat source, because we want some fat in here, we're looking at the medium chain triglycerides. So that's also, we had just talked about those, all those purposes, bioavailability, the biofilm disruption, but now we're actually at 4.5 grams instead of just 250 milligrams. So now we're actually getting into some serious ketone production here and more significant biofilm disruption. We have a fiber intentionally chosen that's a fiber that's been researched against, does anyone treat mold illness in here? Yeah. So what's the most researched pharmaceutical binder for mold? Cholestyramine. Now, there was a trial that looked at some vegetable fibers in comparison to cholestyramine for their bile acid sequestering. Anyone heard of that? What were the top two? Okra and beet. Okra and beet. So okra and beet were the top two vegetable fibers that were comparable as maybe about 20-25%-ish of cholestyramine's bile acid sequestering capacity. So remember, we have that bile that has to get out with the stool as that end part of that story of detoxification. We're actually getting that through beet fiber in this product, which is great. And we have another fiber called glucomannan, which has been researched for having an affinity for multiple of the mold toxins. So now we've got the Saccharomyces boulardii that's helpful for binding mold toxins. We've also got beet fiber that's helpful for binding mold toxins. We've also got glucomannan that's helpful for binding mold toxins. It's not just limited to mold toxins. It's going to bind to other toxins too, but these ones we know are researched for that purpose. Then we have calcium D-glucarate. We also know that mold and a lot of toxins go on that glucuronidation pathway. So that phase 2 liver detoxification is going that glucuronidation pathway. And so we really want to support glucuronidation. And supporting glucuronidation with calcium D-glucarate is one way that we can support that pathway. So we have a significant amount of that in there. When it comes to glutathione and also phase 2 of liver detoxification, N-acetylcysteine is really amazing for that because it is anti-biofilm, anti-mucosal, and also is part of the structure of glutathione, and it's also helpful with phase 2 liver detoxification in and of itself. So for a variety of reasons, NAC is nice to have in there. Turmeric we already talked about, but we have some in here too. And then pomegranate extract is incredible. It's incredible. These days, urolithin A is getting a lot of attention. I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but you're going to hear about it probably. It's increasing mitophagy, this mitochondrial process that increases with aging, and that we really want to actually support that process in a way that can actually help with aging. And we see that ellagic acid from pomegranate, from certain fruits and nuts, is one of the main things that then a gut bacteria can convert some of that into urolithin A, and that supports the mitochondrial processes. So that's just one of many things that pomegranate extract has been found also to be a significant polyphenolic compound that even pomegranate juice has shown in some studies not to increase blood sugar in diabetics on average because of how polyphenol rich it is, even though that's sugar rich. Of course, this is just the extract, so we're not dealing with the sugar from it. And it's also something that we consider to be a prebiotic that's tolerated well by people with SIBO and things like that because it is a polyphenolic compound. It's not feeding bacteria in the same way as the oligosaccharides. Between all of that and a digestive enzyme blend and a few other things in here, including glycine, which we already talked about for methylation, but glycine's also a part of what you can use to form bile salts, are made with glycine or taurine. So glycine can help with the formation of bile salts as well. So all in all, this product is really designed to help with multiple aspects, including binding, including phase 2 liver detox and phase 1 liver detox, including helping with gut dysbiosis, and including being able to get bioavailable protein all at the same time.
And you'll notice that we did include the phage blend in here as well, because again, this is the second 30 days, so that initial product is gone. So it kind of helps to continue that process that we worked on through there. So again, Aptoclear Complete is intended to be a detox, meal replacement shake. It does have 20 grams of protein, and so it does provide plenty for you during this course. We have it for 14 days within the protocol, 2 shakes a day. Very, very simple. And we did that because we wanted to not only get all the nutrients that we want in there, but you also have to always consider patient compliance, right? And so if you can make something that they have to do twice a day, it's easy to remember, it's easy to do, they still get a meal, so they're not feeling like they can't, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to be able to eat food forever, all of these things went into the process of how we made sure that, it doesn't do any good to have great nutrients if the patient's not going to be compliant with it. So we definitely wanted to make sure. That's also why we chose some of those things like the dihydroberberine and different things that are more potent, because we could put it into 1 cap instead of 2, because the total cap count was in our minds as we're creating each and every product, right? So some people say, oh, well, it's only 2 caps. Well, yeah, but when you have 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2, now all of a sudden the patient's going, wait a minute, I got too many. And so all of this was in our thought process as we were going through and creating these. So very excited about. You want me to go back? And
while it's only 160 calories, glucomannan actually expands a lot and fills and gives that feeling of fullness too. So if people are trying to use it as a meal substitute and reduce calorie count, it's for the calories that it has, it's very filling.
Yeah. All right. So we have, again, you'll also notice that for those of you who have used protocols from Viability before, we used to have 3 different servings. And we've moved everything to 2 servings here, again, for patient compliance, because we believe that if you try to have to say, oh, I put that in my pocket to take at lunch, and then you get home and you're like, it's still in my pocket, and I forget. We got rid of that, right? So now it's just AM, PM. Most people can remember that easy twice a day scenario. So we're going to talk about Detox Assist, which is our our capsule product that goes in conjunction with the Aptoclear. And then again, we have the foundational products still in there with your B essentials, your mag, your omegas, your mins. So Miles, let's talk about Detox Assist.
Before going into the details, I want to ask, how is this so far? Is this good? Are you enjoying it? Are there any burning questions right now? We're going to take more questions at the end. Yeah, not enough detail.
Not enough
Okay,
detail.
so we're going to get line by line.
That's
here.
my fault, my fault.
Okay. Y'all have 9 hours, right? So, Detox Assist, this is something that is amazing because we're really looking to, again, flesh out that story of detoxification and make sure we get from in the cell all the way to out with the stool. And that process does require a bunch of different substances in order to help to upregulate, ideally from multiple perspectives, that cellular transport of protein, of toxin out of the cell. And we have some research on schizandra. Schizandra upregulates that transport protein out of the cell. So that's an interesting one that's been used in traditional Chinese medicine for thousands of years. And modern formulations use it a lot in adrenal formulations. So it's really helpful in adrenal formulations, but schizandra can help that transport protein. And then when we're looking at bupleurum has been used in traditional Chinese medicine as a liver support and a detox support for many thousands of years as well. So this is time tested as well as having some modern research on constituents that are helpful. We know that resveratrol is not only helpful for detox, but also is promoting anti-aging and longevity and senescent cells. So again, we want to address multiple areas where we can, and we want to make, hey, it's the face of detox, but it's actually doing a lot of things in the background too. You can sneak stuff in. You get a little anti-aging with your detox. And then quercetin is amazing, and quercetin phospholipid is a much more highly bioavailable form of quercetin. There's not a ton in there, but it is up to 20 times as bioavailable as standard quercetin in that form. And quercetin is shown to be antihistamine. It's a nice polyphenolic compound. It relates to gut repair. So it has a variety of things in addition to phase 1 liver detoxification. Our lipoic acid we already discussed, and so that is detox, phase 2 plus brain detox, and it's helpful as an antioxidant. Green tea as well, phase 1 intermediary. Sometimes actually toxin can come out of the cell, can go through phase 1 liver detox in the liver and actually become more toxic. There's a metabolite, a byproduct that can be more toxic and oxidative in nature. So we need some things to help deal with that, because otherwise we might get people feeling miserable and worse with detoxification. So we really need some things to take care of and clear out those intermediary metabolites, and green tea is really good at doing that. And then we have milk thistle, which has been shown to be able to stimulate some repair, some cellular repair in the liver as well as phase 1. Metabolites. Grape seed extract is a really strong antioxidant as compared even to things like vitamin C. It's much, much, much stronger. And it's a very similar compound to pycnogenol, which has been researched for various things that are very strong and powerful, erectile dysfunction and other things where it's, wow, this is doing a lot. And so grapeseed extract in here at 100 milligrams is a fairly therapeutic dose of grapeseed in 2 caps. And we have the right form of, I guess right's not the word, but we have a form of vitamin E that's focused on it's significantly antioxidant, but not in a way that we see that standard alpha-tocopherol vitamin E tends to actually not perform well in cardiovascular research, not perform well in some of the things that we thought it was going to do. And yet the delta gamma forms of vitamin E, if there isn't the alpha-tocopherol form, the delta gamma tocotrienol form have been researched with cancer, have been researched with mitochondria, have been researched as an antioxidant, and can be really helpful on those phase 1 intermediary metabolites as well. We also have in here chlorella as a binder. Chlorella is an algae that has shown to be able to bind also to certain kinds of toxins like aflatoxin from mold and metals like mercury. And then we have selenium, which is a nice antioxidant as well. So when we're looking at how can we upregulate phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification and the transport protein and bile formation and flow and bind as well. This has elements of all of it, but I wouldn't have it be the only binder because we have other binders in the shake, we have other binders elsewhere. So it is, together with the shake and together with some of these other elements that we have in the protocol, very comprehensive for that whole story of detoxification. And I think it's really an interesting one to have. It includes a little bit of choline, it includes artichoke leaf extract, which is a bile, it's what we call a cholagogue. It helps that bile flow. It also has been researched to help stomach clearing and motility as well. So again, side benefits to these things where we can. So really excited about this formula. And last but not least is sulforaphane. We actually have a standalone sulforaphane product because of how amazing and significant it is for NRF2 and unblocking that pathway, for also helping with cancer and lots of other things. There's a lot of research on sulforaphane as doing enormous things for detox. Glyphosate detox, probably one of the main things I would choose for glyphosate detox is sulforaphane as well. So there's a little bit of that in there. And 2.5 milligrams actually isn't an insignificant amount when it comes to sulforaphane. Therapeutic doses anywhere from 5 to 15 milligrams of sulforaphane. So 2.5 is actually reasonable to get a little bit of that.
Primarily because that sulforaphane is activated, right? It's already. Did you mention that? That
No,
I missed it?
no,
Yeah.
I didn't.
So we'll talk about it when we talk about the main product. But it's important. Again, we thought through to make sure how are we getting therapeutic dosage but not having too many caps, right? And again, that's part of why we chose certain products the way we did. So again, within the advanced protocol, we've got these additional products that we're going to talk about, and so we'll look at those now. One of which is that activated sulforaphane. So Biospore Restore IG is our the bovine serum-based immunoglobulins. So we'll talk about that because we've combined that along with the spore-based probiotics.
So the serum bovine immunoglobulin is interesting because it's been researched incredibly more than most natural substances have, because it was under the guise of a medical food and a pharmaceutical company for a time. So Immunolin had a bunch of research behind it. And it's found to do incredible things, like people with irritable bowel syndrome who are non-responsive to other treatments. Many of them actually respond to serum bovine immunoglobulin and feel better and get improvements. The mechanism, we know some of the mechanism may be that it can bind to things like H. pylori, it can bind to LPS, it can help if someone has leaky gut to have less of it, less of the LPS endotoxin get into the bloodstream. It also has these immunoglobulins that can educate the immune system and immune system function as well. So this is very strongly researched for gut issues, for leaky gut, and there's also some immune component to it, just like with the egg-based immunoglobulins, but it comes from a different source, and it's going to have different immunoglobulins in it. So it's great to have different sources with different immunoglobulins. When we look at the probiotic blend in here, we have actually now one other spore-based probiotic that wasn't in the Probiospore SB. The Probiospore SB had 2, this has 3. So now we add in Bacillus clausii, and so now we have 3, and these 3 have all the same things that I said in the Biospore SB, and has one additional one that can actually make some polyphenolic compounds. And so we're having even more of a rounded spore-based probiotic blend together with the immunoglobulins in this formulation.
Yeah. All right, so we have, in addition, we have the activated sulforaphane, which I alluded to. Do you want to say a little bit more about that, or?
Yeah, so people who eat broccoli, for example, there is some glucoraphanin in broccoli. However, if you cook broccoli and eat it, that glucoraphanin isn't activated and doesn't have its active detox components that you would get if it had been activated. It's activated by an enzyme called myrosinase, and myrosinase enzyme is in broccoli and broccoli sprouts, but if you cook it, it's heat sensitive, so it actually gets destroyed with heat. It can also degrade and break down, so it's hard to stabilize activated glucoraphanin, which is called sulforaphane, into a supplement form, because that myrosinase can break down, and you need that myrosinase in there. If you take broccoli sprouts and you eat broccoli sprouts raw, now you're getting glucoraphanin and you're getting myrosinase enzyme into sulforaphane. And I try to get patients to eat a lot of broccoli sprouts, but it's hard. It's hard. Like, oh, do I have to buy them every day? How many times a week, and how much do I have to eat? And it's a little bit challenging. And the ones who are gung-ho, they're like, oh yeah, I'll grow my own. But even them, I suspect it's not actually happening on a daily basis. So we have the equivalent of a good dose of broccoli sprouts or a huge dose of broccoli that is in its activated form because it has had the enzyme active converting glucoraphanin into sulforaphane, and sulforaphane has a lot of research papers behind it. There are whole institutes that are just dedicated to sulforaphane. It's incredible. And it's doing a lot when it comes to, some of the research is in cancer and oncology, some of the research is in detoxification from chemical exposures like glyphosate, some of the research is in NRF2 activation. So it is pretty incredible. And it's in a class of compounds that are hard to actually be active and stable and have their effect in the body. And it's one of the best choices from that class of compounds when we can get it activated and stabilized. So when it comes to, is there number one product if we have a standalone ingredient for detox, this would be, it depends on the context, but this would be one of my top choices as one single standalone product. So to get this therapeutic dose of 15 milligrams in a cap is really significant. That's actually going to be, the whole cap is filled with the broccoli extract to be able to get that 15 milligrams of sulforaphane in there.
So you'll notice we don't have a lot of single ingredient, but as he said, because of the importance of this, in order to get the therapeutic dosage, that's why this ingredient is a single ingredient product.
And we had to fill the whole cap to get that much.
Yeah. So next we have Liver GB Assist, which again, these are not part of that core protocol, but they are advanced. They're advanced products that can be added to the protocol, specifically to get better, therapeutic effect, but also with specific patients who might need help in certain areas. And so there will be a couple of different protocols available with or without certain products, but this is another one of those advanced products. This is our TUDCA product. Yeah,
so gallbladder issues are pretty significant, right? And even if they aren't, even if the gallbladder is functional and holding bile well, there's the liver production of bile, there's that MR2 protein. There's a lot of problems with bile formation, bile flow, bile storage, bile release. All of these things have significant issues in a significant percentage of the population. And then if we're binding bile and taking it out, the liver needs to make more bile. And so to support that process, TUDCA is that active bile acid that's already bound to taurine. I mentioned earlier that taurine or glycine needs to be bound to make that bile acid. And so this is already bound to taurine, meaning there's no steps left that the body needs to do to make this active. So this is active bile already. And then we have artichoke leaf extract, which is, as I mentioned before with the Detox Assist product, that this is involved in that cholagogue, that bile flow, and it helps with gastric emptying. It helps with the stomach emptying and motility process as well. N-acetylcysteine has that anti-biofilm as well as upregulating glutathione, as well as in this product, it's here because we really want to see that sulfuration pathway working well in liver detox, and we want to see that bile flow working well. That MRP2 protein that I mentioned that's involved in how the liver decides how much bile to make versus how much stuff to shunt into the kidneys and other places the MRP2 protein becomes impaired in many cases and is part of the reason why bile isn't actually being formed appropriately and flowing. And myrrh gummeresin is one of the few things that's been researched to upregulate MRP2 protein. So we're actually going to see MRP2 protein upregulation, better bile formation, better bile flow, and we're going to replace some bile at the same time. So we're actually replacing, but we're not, again, we don't just want to do the thing that people are deficient in. We want to go upstream of that, and we want to also look at how can we address some of the driving forces behind why that's an issue. So we're addressing bile formation and flow while we're also replacing bile.
So quercetin C is another product. This is, again, something that we already have quercetin in that detox assist, but we felt like it was beneficial to put in with a vitamin C as well. And so I'll let you speak.
So vitamin C and quercetin go really well together. Actually, vitamin C helps protect quercetin against some oxidation issues that quercetin can have. Quercetin's a bioflavonoid, and quercetin has been associated with improvements in histamine issues. It's also a polyphenolic compound that can be a prebiotic for gut, but doesn't tend to exacerbate SIBO or other gut dysbiosis. And high-dose quercetin is being used now for intestinal permeability and MCAS and histamine issues. There are a lot of things that quercetin at high doses can do. Now, high-dose quercetin is really looking at gram doses of quercetin. Gram doses are quite hard to come by without either a powder, and quercetin, I actually give people a powdered quercetin sometimes, but anyone done powdered quercetin? It's like, isn't it like staining everything? It's like crazy yellow. It's like it doesn't taste that great. So it's a little difficult of a one to use in a powder format. So what we've done is we've looked at, okay, what's the most bioavailable form? And that's this quercetin phospholipid. I had mentioned it earlier as up to, in some studies, 20 times bioavailable as compared to standard quercetin. So if we're looking now at 200 times 20, we are in gram doses here. We're at 4 grams. If we really are getting 20 times bioavailability. And even if we're only getting half that at 10 times bioavailability in 1 cap, we're still getting 2 gram equivalent. And that's already therapeutic for leaky gut, for helping with detoxification, for having this polyphenolic compound that's prebiotic in nature. So this is going to help with histamine MCAS issues. It's going to help with people who are dealing with leaky gut and dysbiosis. This is going to help with detoxification and those intermediary metabolites, those phase 1 metabolites. If people are struggling with taking detox stuff, if they're having reactions, this is a great product to add in.
Yeah, awesome. So the mention about people struggling with detoxification, one of the things that we had done was add a binder, specifically a binder, to our protocols, because we were seeing since 2020, the increased stress, we were seeing more and more people that were having detox reactions. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a really quality binder available as well, because there are some people that have more trouble and need that additional support. And so Toxin Defense is a very well thought out binder that's going to help to make sure that people are not doing that reabsorption. If you want to speak to a couple of those ingredients.
So you'll see some overlap here. We have the beet fiber that's in the powder, but the powder is only used for 14 days, so we want another source of that. It's a small dose per cap in this of 100 milligrams because we wanted to fit some other things in too, and have some unique and novel things that aren't in other protocols. We do have some chlorella in here, which is in Toxin Defense. Again, small dose. What we spend most of the cap real estate here on in this product are a combination of shilajit and a purified clinoptilite. So zeolite, clinoptilolite is so zeolite's a clay, but part of the problem is it can be contaminated and impure. It can have actual contaminants in it itself. And so the purified version is quite nice because it has strong affinity for mold toxin, it has strong affinity for metals, and it is in its purified form, so it's not an exposure in and of itself. It's actually more binding and getting rid of toxins. And then we have shilajit extract, which is a lot of fulvic acid. These are these short chain. When we look at carbon, we have short chain, medium chain, and long chain carbons. And long chain carbons, that's going to be your activated charcoal. But long chain carbons, while they're nice and effective and I use them a lot, they're a little rougher, a little harder to tolerate for people. They can sometimes bind people up. They can sometimes contribute to constipation. They're a little rougher than those medium and short chain carbons. So fulvic is more of on that short chain carbon side of things, and shilajit's mostly the short and medium chain, where it's going to be binders but not as rough and less prone to contributing to constipation. Plus we have Bacillus coagulans in there, one of those spore-based probiotics that is shown effective with IBS and effective with gut dysbiosis and intestinal permeability. So it can help together with these other things to make sure, because one of the big problems with binders is people get sometimes constipated when they're taking binders, and then that creates its own toxin issue. So we wanted this binder to be such that it has good spectrum of ingredients in it that have a high affinity for a variety of different toxins, but that would be a little better tolerated than some other binders out there, well tolerated, and people would stay regular during it.
Yeah. I think that was, that was the last one on that aspect. So questions, let's go ahead and do some questions. Typically, y'all have some questions, and I want to make sure that we get them all answered. I know Miles is pretty thorough. Go ahead. Do we have a microphone?
The secretory IgA is elevated, then will the IgG product help with that?
So secretory IgA is this, in the intestine, some of the stool tests will measure secretory IgA. If secretory IgA is deficient, that's immune function is low in the gut, and often Saccharomyces boulardii can help bring it up, is one of the things that have been researched to bring it up. When it's elevated, that usually means that there's actually some insult, an insult. The gut immune function is reactive against something, be that gluten, be that toxin, be that an infection, be that an overgrowth. So it kind of, if it's elevated, depends on what it is, but I would anticipate that regardless of what it is, if you bring a bunch of autoantibodies through serum bovine immunoglobulin or through the egg-based immunoglobulins, that could mop some of that up and could help calm that immune response down and shift the immune function. So I would expect so, but I can't speak to that there's any research for that directly that I'm aware of.
Miles,
It's on.
I got a question. You can hear. Okay, good. The quercetin. I've heard you speak it a couple times about how much more it is than plain quercetin. What about dihydroquercetin compared to quercetin dihydrate? And you're using the liposomal. Where is this all going to fit into? Because everybody, if you got a dihydro, that's what they're touting. Quercetin dihydrate, they're going to tout that.
Yeah, so I reviewed the different forms of quercetin, and the phospholipid was the most bioavailable, but I don't recall off the top of my head the difference between the dihydro versus the regular quercetin in terms of bioavailability, but I know that the phospholipid in my review of the research was by far the most bioavailable. I just don't remember the specifics on the other two.
So I know I'm going to get this question because when we review the supplements and try to help them understand why some of their supplements aren't working, some of the things that we find in there are things like maltodextrin, and I just saw that the Biospore had that in it. I was just wondering, what can we explain to them when they say, well, you have this in there, about that?
So it's been a process. As I said, if we go back to when we were beginning this process, when we were inventing this idea, it was like, oh, we're not going to have any excipients or binders, and we're going to just do all the ingredients right, and it's going to be beautiful, and we're going to launch in 3 months. And I mean, a little bit. There may have been some delusions of grandeur there. when it came down to talking to manufacturers and working with this, I mean, we've been able to do some things that are pretty incredible. I think the entire line is free of magstearate.
It is.
That was something that we were really pushing for. We've been, trying to look at the excipients, and I mean, I don't know. You don't want to know how frustrating it's been. We'll just put it at that. That being said, there are some things that people say, that they say like, oh, we have to have some of this. So we've ensured that whatever's in there. I
was pulling this
yeah.
up because of bamboo.
Yeah.
It was, we used a lot of bamboo instead of a magstearate. But there are certain things like with the tablet where they had to have stearic acid. There was just no way to actually get the tablet to hold together without. So there are certain things that we would even come to them and say, look, we've seen that we could use this or this or that, and they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I never thought, yeah, we can do that. And so we accomplished a lot more but there were just certain things that were just not, it just wasn't possible to create the product without.
You had to educate the manufacturers about a lot of it, but I do believe it's for sure all non-GMO, right?
Right.
And so when the biggest concern for me personally with maltodextrin is the GMO component of it. So we have ensured non-GMO. Is that going to be on the bottle, on the label?
Don't remember
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's regulatory.
Yeah. So you can say that at least, and beyond that, just that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let me bring up another one. So natural flavors, right? People are like, oh, well, yeah, because that's a lot of people's way of hiding because there are this, but natural flavors is also just legitimately a actual natural flavor. Like, so it's sometimes the things that we've adopted because they're used as guises, just know that in the concept of what we've done, we've said, look, we're not doing these things. And so we've made sure that the concerns behind not having those ingredients, if we had to include them, we've eliminated the concern at least. Yeah.
So I have a question in regards to methyl assist. So in case we have over-methylators, so giving the glycine and they're supposed to balance or offset the bad effects?
Yeah. So for over-methylation, glycine is my preferred methyl buffer. It does help to bring methyl groups down. The body has a pathway in which it can bind 3 methyl groups to a glycine and then actually get those methyl groups out of circulation or of an area. So glycine is incredible for that. And glycine is considered a non-essential amino acid, meaning the body can make some. However, the body does not make enough to satisfy all the collagen synthesis needs, plus the methyl buffer needs, plus making the bile acid, plus the brain effects of glycine. There are a lot of effects of glycine that is why things like collagen protein have become so popular today, is to try to get more of that glycine in part. And so glycine as a standalone at a significant dose, at a 2 gram plus dose, is actually equivalent of something like 20 plus grams of a collagen protein worth of glycine that you're going to get in there. So it's going to be significant in helping with over-methylation issues. And because we're not using mega doses of pre-methylated things, there's a little bit of that in there, but we don't have any SAMe in there. We have creatine to spare SAMe. So we're not going to push it too high if it's not high already. We're just sparing what's there to be able to go down whatever pathway the body chooses for it. So I would expect that it would be much better tolerated and have much less of the upregulation of methylation as compared to other products that are just pushing methylation up without that balanced approach.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, how many supplement total are patients expected in your protocol, like first month and second month? Like 8 per day?
You're asking how many pills?
How many pills? Yeah.
I would know that off the top of my head, but I don't. So we'll look. So it looks like in the base protocol, again, this is the core protocol, it's 4 in the morning and 4 in the evening. If you add in the additional products in there, then I can't remember, but I feel like it was 6. Is that right? Do you remember?
Think so, but I'm not entirely sure, but yeah.
But it's very reasonable as far as what they're able to do. And again, just from a purely patient education standpoint, if you're ever having a patient who's struggling with that, you just let them know, look, you need to invest in your health for this time period. We're going to have some increased capsules during this initial phase, but we'll be able to reduce that very soon.
Oh, and by the way, you can stop your multivitamin because we've got, minerals and B vitamins, and we've got those bases covered too. So, telling people they can stop something when they start this too can be helpful.
Yeah, that's definitely reasonable, 6 to 8. The second question, are you guys planning to introduce anything for mitochondrial health?
Interestingly, we've hidden some mitochondrial things in here. I mean, I mentioned that the pomegranate extract can actually be converted by the gut into urolithin A, that's a strong mitochondrial support, and acetylcysteine and alpha-lipoic or R-lipoic acid are used in mitochondrial support as well. And so we have embedded again, we're trying to address as many different areas as possible. So we've embedded some things that are already helpful to mitochondria and mitochondrial issues where the oxidative stress is significant because they're not producing enough endogenous antioxidants. That isomer form of vitamin E that we've included, those actual delta and gamma tocotrienols, are one of my top choices. When it comes to a next mitochondrial supplement that's going to take things to another level, we do have one up and coming that's going to integrate ubiquinol and is going to look at some of the other things like the bioactive form of CoQ10 together with some things that make it even more bioactive, together with some things that have mitochondrial impacts from another perspective. So TBD on an additional mitochondrial support, but already there are some nods to mitochondria in this program.
Question is, on the GI immune product, you had mentioned an egg protein powder in that.
Yes.
Would someone with an egg allergy, would that be a contraindication for them, or is it in a different formulation where you would see a lower risk of reactivity? Could you speak to that at all?
Yeah, so let me speak to that because I actually had an egg sensitivity. So when you say, there was a question over here. When you say egg allergy, if there's, like an actual allergic reaction, then that would be something where you would probably need to avoid, be very, very careful there. As far as like an egg sensitivity, I actually had an egg sensitivity and used a similar product in order to rid myself of that sensitivity by doing smaller doses over time, and allowed my body to do that because the reason I had the sensitivity was because of gut issues, and so it was actually helping to heal the gut and reducing that sensitivity over time. So.
And there's a little data also on like colostrum, which is immunoglobulin focused, that's dairy containing and reducing dairy sensitivity over time. Same thing for the egg-based immunoglobulin reducing egg sensitivity over time. However, true IgE allergy, of course, generally we would advise to stay away from it if it's especially a serious IgE allergy. If it's an IgG, IgA, actually it may help to overcome that.
Great.
Yeah, would we gradually build it or would we put them straight on the full dose? I mean, I'd probably gradually build it in most cases. It depends how sensitive the person is and where their psychology is at around it. And if they want to take a risk on a high dose at first, they may have a reaction. But for most people, I'd taper the dose up.
Speaking about your sulforaphane supplement, can you speak to the bioavailability compared to glucoraphanin?
Well, glucoraphanin without myrosinase enzyme will not convert well into sulforaphanes. Bioavailability is minimal. The bioavailability of activated sulforaphane is already in its active form that it will never be able to adequately get to when it's glucoraphanin alone without myrosinase enzyme. So if you ever see glucoraphanin in a product and there is no myrosinase enzyme or nothing that can activate that glucoraphanin into sulforaphane, it's a night and day bioavailability difference. You're really going to get very little in the glucoraphanin. You're going to get almost everything in the sulforaphane. So it would be night and day for bioavailability there. Yeah.
Did y'all have a question? Oh, just
Great. So she's saying they've actually seen people with IgE egg allergies tolerate the product as they've gone and increased people's oral tolerance, that then they've seen people tolerate that product with true IgE allergies.
Titrating up. Yep. Oh, right. Yeah, methyl assist, you can also taper up in dose if someone's sensitive to methyl. Speaking
products.
of methyl assist, if I could just mention this, one of the things, in the protocol, obviously, one of the things that we take out in week 2 is caffeine. If you're following the Viability Standard Elimination Diet, there are some reactivities for people in relation to that. So you do have to make sure that they're not mixing caffeine, because it can create headaches or different small reactions. Again, none that are, I'm going to say, health detrimental, but no one wants a headache. So you want to be aware of things like that.
Someone with a gallbladder versus someone without a gallbladder, will that affect any of the products or the protocol at all?
Without a gallbladder, I would highly, highly recommend adding the TUDCA product in to the mix and have that be ongoing through the whole protocol, and maybe even ongoing beyond that. It depends on how their body has adapted, but in general, if someone doesn't have a gallbladder, I would put them on a product like that, TUDCA product, ongoingly, 1 per meal.
Just get a Sharpie and right above, just put liver, no GB assist. No gallbladder.
I would like to know, what is the frequency of a detox? If someone does detox maybe every couple of weeks, it's kind of a maintenance thing that they do. With this system, what would be the best path for them to take?
Yeah, so if someone wants to be doing ongoing or cyclical detoxification, definitely that detox assist can be ongoing for a long period of time and help support all those different detoxification pathways. Sulforaphane can be ongoing, and then the shake could come in from more cyclically time to time to focus on adding some additional support for detox pathways through the shake, and maybe reducing calories and things, and doing some combination of maybe fasting strategies together with some of these things. But the detox assist and the sulforaphane, even one of the binders, could be really nice ongoing long-term detox. I mean, all of these are designed that they could be ongoing long-term things, so you could extend the whole protocol for a lot longer in someone who's needing more than the average person a detox process. You could actually do the whole thing over and over and over again without any issue, and it'd be probably helpful, but a lot of people aren't going to want to do that much. So when it comes to the main threads, then the detox assist and the sulforaphane would be 2 keystone ones that you could go ongoingly.
Real quick, let me say this. For those who missed the quarterly February talk that we did, where we talked about the foundations products, I don't want you to miss that information. Those foundation products are just as well thought out as all the products that we presented today. From the 80K to the Omega Advanced to the minerals to the magnesium, all of it. So that education is actually up on the Aptogenix website. So make sure you go and check that out, and you can watch that. Under media, I think is the link, so make sure you do that. Secondly, just want to mention that 5:20 in this room, we are going to be having another Q&A regarding the investment opportunity for Aptogenix. What some of you may or may not know is that Aptogenix is half owned by you guys, right? The clinicians, the providers. So that if you haven't already taken part in that, I want to encourage you to do that. Make sure you come out to the booth. It's really, it's great out there. They've got great information. They can help you get signed up for an Aptogenix account, which is obviously really, really simple. And if you have any other questions, feel free to certainly grab us and ask, and we are happy to help. But yeah.
And I want to just, to close out here, I want to circle back to this a little over a year ago in Mexico. Some of you may have seen me up on the screen going into ice. I don't know.
Yeah.
Out at the ocean there. And I want to thank all the people. I want to thank all the people in the mastermind who helped to conceive this, who have been on the advisory board, who have helped to do this. I want to just show appreciation for people like Kai and Seth, who have been on with these manufacturers, dealing with frustrations through this process. I think we all thought it was going to be easier and quicker than it is. And now that we're here, now that we're at where we're at with the release of these products, it is tremendous what is coming out, even though it's been a struggle. So I want to thank Kai, thank everyone. So if we can give a round of applause.
All the more rewarding, and couldn't be more excited about where we ended up. So thank y'all, and we look forward to talking with you more. I appreciate you, buddy.